Hola, besis, bienvenidos a mi canal. Today we're going to be talking about some of the cultural differences and experiences I've had as an American having a Colombian wife, lessons that I've learned, things that I've had to get used to, and different ways to embrace my wife's culture in order to make our relationship work and grow in a better, healthier, more respectful way for the both of us. This whole idea came based off of a comment that I got a while back asking how my wife and I managed to bridge the cultural differences between the two of us. I'm not going to say that I know absolutely everything about it. I just know what my approach has been, and it's worked out so well or so far for the both of us. So if there's anything I can do to help and kind of spread that knowledge around, I'm happy to try. So number one, the differences in family, la familia. Um, for a lot of Americans, family is not nearly as close as it is for Colombians or Latino families. Specifically, I've noticed a huge difference with Colombian families. Colombian families, like family is very widespread, but at the same time is super close and super tight. So your cousins, tu tías, tu tíos, your sisters, your nephews, your nieces, everybody is like very, very close and very tight. And if one thing happens to one person, it affects everybody. At the same time, not having or there being a lack of that relationship is very devastating to Colombian people. When that relationship is not necessarily there or as strong because of the strong cultural significance for Colombians, it is very, very difficult. You feel like a big part of you is missing. You feel like something is lacking, and you're constantly trying to make up for that. Whereas for Americans, if you don't have that tight familial bond, it doesn't really affect you as much. Everybody in America kind of has that idea that eventually, sooner rather than later, you grow up, you move away from the house. Once you're out of the house, you're kind of away from your family. You really only see them for like major holidays or like major occasions. So weddings, funerals, stuff like that. So the difference is in America, you only really see family for like really large events. Whereas my wife speaks to her sister who is married with children of her own or a child of her own 3, 4, 5 times a day. Like it's very constant communication. So it takes a lot of getting used to when you're an outsider looking in. Like you hear stories about families being that close, but coming from a different background and a different culture, it's not something that you've ever really experienced or seen until you're thrown into it and you're part of it. You have to learn to kind of grow and accept that like this is just a cultural difference between you and your wife or you and your significant other. And rather than sit there and look at it as a difference, look at it as something to embrace. It's like you are now part of this larger, important family. Cultural difference number 2, personalities, how big they are, and expressiveness. It is very common to be walking down the street or interacting with people in stores, and people here in Colombia are very bright, very personable, very happy, always smiling, always with a very nice tone in their voice. Unfortunately, where I come from, in America, I have learned to very much be more reserved and more held back. Because where I come from in the States, people are very detached, very cold. It's not something that you get to see a lot of where people are very warm and inviting. For example, my wife asked me this question once and I thought it was really, really funny. She's like, if you walk into a store in the States and there's nobody there, like, how do you call out to them? How do you greet them? And I laughed because my expression was, you don't. You just stand there and wait for someone to eventually show up. She's like, that's not how things work. I said, yes, it is. And in the US and the States, when you go into a store, if you don't find a shopkeeper or a teller, you basically wait around until somebody shows up. And she looks at me and says, you don't do the whole buenas. I'm like, that's a thing. That is a perfect example of the difference. Like people are very warm and inviting, and it's not a problem at all to walk into a store and call out for someone to try to get help. Whereas in the States, we would see that as being rude. In Colombia, they see us as being rude. Learn that being in Colombia around more Colombian people and everything, where they see you with a blank expression, they take it as like you being cold and maybe rude towards them. And it's not necessarily that you're trying to be rude or cold. It's just you're used to one thing, they're used to another. And it's taken a lot of practice, and it's still taking a lot of practice for me to try to learn that I have to be more openly expressive, energetic, and like emotionally open when I'm around people, especially like her family. Because the last thing that I want to do is like offend somebody unintentionally. So you just have to kind of step outside of what you're used to and try to be a little more open and expressive. So differences number 3 is differences in the household. A lot of this is going to seem really kind of trivial or small, but it's definitely things that when you think about it add up and make an important difference. For example, my Colombian wife, my mom, take a lot of pride in the way that things look around the home. For example, in the States, it's perfectly normal to walk around the house with your shoes on. Not something you do at home when I am visiting wife and mom. You take off your shoes as soon as you walk in the door. You put on your slippers that are only used for inside the house. And when they explain to you why we do this, it definitely makes sense. And it kind of makes you feel awkward that you've never really thought about things in those kind of terms before. For example, Sundays. Sunday is cleaning day in the Colombian household, and it's like that for most Colombian families. The wives, the moms, even though they work all week, they will still come on Sunday when they have the day off and clean absolutely everything. And it usually involves a lot of loud music, a lot of dancing around as you're cleaning. There's a lot of energy that goes into it, and it's just one of those cultural differences that when you sit there and experience and you get to be a part of, really makes you feel like you're a stronger, more active part of the family. But it's definitely one of those things that until you've been involved in it or until you've seen it, just doesn't make sense. You would never know what it was like until you're a part of it. I absolutely love it. Cultural differences number 4, the importance of food, more specifically, the appreciation of it. So it is very common and very important when you're visiting a Colombian household that they offer or will present you with some kind of food. Now, me being from the States and being the way that I am, my initial response was to say, no, thank you, it's okay. And it's not because I didn't appreciate it or didn't want it. For us, it's considered impolite or somewhat aggressive to expect food or something like that when you go to somebody's house. So it's kind of the exact opposite of the way things are in Colombia. In Colombia, if you reject food or you turn down food, it is taken as a huge offense. It means that like you're not being appreciative of the family that's offering it. So for me, definitely a lesson I had to learn. So for me personally, I had to try to take a step aside and learn that it's not necessarily me being burdensome or me expecting a lot from the family. I still have trouble sometimes like stepping aside and realizing that like when the family offers something, the polite thing and the right thing to do is to just accept it. They wouldn't offer if they weren't able to provide it. They wouldn't offer if it wasn't something that they really wanted to do. And that's kind of the major difference between like American families or American people and like Colombian people. When they offer, they expect you to accept the offer that they're making. So it will definitely give you an opportunity to learn and grow and form those tighter bonds with your family when you can start to see things a little bit more from their perspective. So a lot of these cultural differences and things are things that I had to learn and had to grow from. And the best piece of advice I can give you after going through all of these is you need to be able to step aside and understand that like you're not just looking at this from your perspective. Try to see things from the perspective of your mate, why they are that way, why they have these traditions, why they have these beliefs. And the better you start to understand things from that side, the more easy it's going to be for you to learn and grow and be a stronger couple together. Ciao.